Hi! On the new build of Anime Life Sim, the default camera no longer clips through walls. This makes it easier to look around in small spaces. But I've added an option on the settings menu to make the camera clip through walls again. In case you'd like to, for example, take a screenshot of a character off a window. Although it's also possible to do this just by going into edit mode, where you can fly with the camera. I've also added a small shadow and shaded light into the character models. I think it makes them look a little better. But if you want, you can change it on the settings. When you start a new game, you can now choose if you want to create a new character, load an existing character, or just continue. Characters have three necessities: bladder, sleep, and hunger. Each necessity has a bad consequence if they don't attend to it. If the character gets too tired, they will fall asleep wherever they are. If they don't use the bathroom for too long, they will stop anything they're doing and run to the nearest bathroom. And if they don't eat for too long, they will pass out and be taken to the health center. On this build, I've implemented the health center, but I can't implement the bad consequences to necessities yet, because where will characters eat? Right now, the only place in the game where you can eat is the fast food place. That's not a very healthy solution, so for the next builds, I'll have to focus on adding more places to eat, like the cafe, the pizzeria, or the mini market. On the mini market or the town's market street, you should also be able to get ingredients to make your own food at your character's home. The default characters in the town already have homes, but if you create your own characters, where will they sleep? So I'll also need to focus on implementing the house creator, so that you can create houses for characters. Let's add these two features to Anime Life Simulator's to-do list: the house creator and more places to eat. Each place where you can eat is a job. It would be cool that if you're playing as a character that has a job and you go to work, then each job would have a minigame. But it's just an idea. On this build, I've added most of Aino's house, but it's not finished yet. I haven't added Aino's daily schedule yet because it depends on her house. I've also added most of the health center and a nurse to it. I was going to add some random doctors and random sick people, but I don't think that the game is ready yet to have more random characters in that way. The nurse also doesn't does anything yet, because I haven't worked much on the jobs feature yet. Well, on edit mode, you now have a new option to open the importer menu. Here we have three options: bundle, model, and pack. On the streaming assets folder, there's now a new folder called import. Inside the model folder, we can put several types of model files, like object, FBX, or even blend files. Inside the textures folder, we can put textures. Inside the bundle folder, we can put bundle files. And inside the assets folder is where are the text files with the information of the assets that we already imported using the importer menu. Right now, the game can import properly from bundle files, but it can't import everything properly from model files yet. Some models might import well, but some others might not. Importing from model files is something that isn't fully implemented yet, but it can already import properly from bundle files. Here, we can choose one of the bundle files inside the bundle folder. Then we can choose one of the objects inside that bundle. When an object is imported, we now have this menu where we can edit the object's materials and the object's transform. We can select one of the object's material and change its shader. Right now there's only two choices. We can change its color, outline color, and size. And we can change its texture with one from the textures folder. Then the transform menu is to change the object's scale or rotation. Sometimes when you import a model, it might come with the wrong rotation. So here you can change it until it's the right one. The game will automatically try to detect if the object has an incorrect rotation, and if it does, then a warning sign will appear. Sometimes when you import a model, it might also come with the wrong scale. The game will also try to detect if the scale is incorrect. Sometimes it might import something really small, and sometimes it might import something really big. Once we're done making the model look properly, we can press the import button, and then we can select which kind of object this is. It can be a prop, which is a decoration object, like a plant or a table. It can be an item, which is something that a character can pick up and carry around. It can be clothing or a base model. It can be an hair model, or it can be an accessory. By choosing a type like hair, a display character will appear, so that we can see if the hair is properly placed. We can still press 4 or 5 to change the camera height. By default, the gizmo will appear at the object's pivot, but in the transform menu, we can choose to show it at the object's center. After we've changed the hair position to fit the model, we can then press the Finish button. Now we need to write the object's reference name, display name, and credits. The display name and credits are what appears here when you select something from a list. The reference name is the asset's file name that we're going to save as. Once we've finished the import of an hair, that hair will appear in the hair list. The next times you load or open the game again, the game will automatically load and import the assets. So the hair, for example, will still be accessible in the hair list. Any character that you've put with that imported hair will load with it. An accessory is something that's attached to an area of a character. Here we can choose which bone it should be. Then an indicator will appear at the start of the selected bone. You can still use the gizmo to place the accessory anywhere you want. The prop is a kind of object that can have a collision. Right now there isn't a way to visualize collisions in the game yet, but a box collision looks like this, and a sphere collision looks like this. Convex is a special collision that has a shape around the object. It's like covering an object with a paper, where you can only see the outer parts of it. The mesh collision is a collision with the exact shape of the object. The prop kind of object can also be usable. Right now there are only 3 types of usable props: a generic sit with table, and a generic bed. These are the spots where the usable is used. By default, spots have this bright color. If you want, you can change its default color on the settings. And by the way, I've also added a button to reset the UI color. Once we've finished the prop, we can access it on the Scenario Editor menu. An item is something that a character can grab and carry around. Most pickable objects will be carried on the hands. But for example, this bag, it's a pickable object that is carried on the shoulder. So here, we can choose which bone this item will be carried on. Then we should place the object in the location where it should be carried. We can also choose a different carrying animation. Right now, these are the only ones available. Items can also have an utility. For example, a burger is an item that can be eaten. Right now, edible is the only available option for item utility. You can also define if this item can be put in the inventory. For example, you should be able to put a pen in your pocket, but not a toaster. The item will fall when you drop it, so it needs to have a collision. In general, you should always just use the box collision. Avoid using the convex collision. This plant, for example, has a box collision.